CEO Cargo is one of the most profitable businesses in all of GTA Online, and it's only become better over the years. So in today's video, I'll show you exactly how to make the most amount of money possible with this business using the least amount of effort. This is going to be an A to Z guide that covers every single aspect of the CEO Special Cargo grind in 2025, and I'll also teach you how to fill up your warehouse in the fastest possible way by skipping the 5-minute cooldown. Then I'll show you how to combine manual sourcing with warehouse technicians to boost your income even further, because a lot of people don't know this, but CEO Cargo is one of the very few businesses in GTA Online that works even after you log off, and I'll show you how to take advantage of that. But first ththings first, we're going to need ourselves a CEO office, because without the CEO computer, we cannot access the SecuraServe network, which is where all of the warehouses are sold. You cannot directly buy a Special Cargo warehouse on Maze Bank foreclosures like you can do with other businesses, so you need a CEO office first, and these can be found on the Dynasty A Executive Real Estate website, the same place where you buy the agency. As for which CEO office location you should get, cheaper is probably better. I highly recommend these two, either Maze Bank West or the Arcadia Center. Lombank's got a great view and all, but it's a bit too overpriced in my opinion, and while Maze Bank Tower is the ultimate flex, it's also not that far away from Arcadius, so Arcadius, despite being the second cheapest option, is actually the best value for your money since it's pretty centrally located. And once we start doing those crate sourcing missions, you'll see why it's such a benefit to have a centrally located office building. By the way, I also recommend having an Oppressor Mark II or at least a Sparrow helicopter or even a Buzzer before you start your crate grind, because any kind of fast flying vehicle with homing missiles is going to make a huge difference in the amount of time it'll take you to source these crates. And if you just have an Armored Kuruma or even a Duke of Death right now, maybe hold off on the warehouse business and grind some more Cluckenbell farm raids first, because CEO warehouses are expensive. Like $3 million each, kind of expensive. And I'll say it right now, unless you have at least $6 to $7 million in disposable income, don't even think about starting a warehouse grind, because unless you have 2 or more large warehouses, the grind will be quite inefficient at first. Technically, you can make do with just one warehouse if you do other activities like Headhunter CEO work, or even payphone hits to pad out the cooldown, literally any other content to pass the time, but ideally, you'll want 2 or more large warehouses that are in close proximity to each other so you can source crates for one while the other is on cooldown. Having a terabyte is also a huge bonus here, because you can park it in between both warehouses, zip back and forth to it on your Oppressor Mark II as soon as you exit one warehouse, and start a new mission. Okay, so these are the large warehouses that I recommend buying. First, you've got Wholesale Furniture over here, which costs $1.9 million, and right beneath that, we've got Cypress Warehouse, which is literally just 1 block away. I'd start with these two first, and then work my way up to the other large warehouses like Logistics Depot, as well as the Darnell Bros warehouse. Also, if you pay close attention here, you'll notice that the 4 large warehouses I just mentioned are situated almost perfectly along this one big line, top to bottom, and you'll see why that's useful later in the video. And speaking of size here, large warehouses are the only ones worth getting for 2 major reasons. First, they encourage you to only do one big sell mission at the end of the month instead of doing 2 or 3 sell missions that are spread out over the course of weeks. Small warehouses hold 16 crates, medium warehouses hold 42. Meanwhile, large warehouses hold a whopping 111 crates, which makes them a lot more efficient from a profit versus time perspective. The second reason to get large warehouses is that the value of each individual crate that you sell goes up based on volume. So for example, if you're only selling 1 crate, it's worth $10,000. If you sell 15 to 19 crates at a time, which is basically one small warehouse full of crates, you get $15,000 per crate. But if you sell 111 crates all at the same time in one sale mission, which is what a large warehouse holds, you get $20,000 per crate. Literally double what you get from selling 1 crate, and 33% more cash per crate compared to selling a small warehouse. So when you look at the big picture, it makes no sense to get a small warehouse. Remember, you can only have 5 warehouses total, and I'd much rather have 2 large warehouses than 5 small ones. Okay, now that we've talked about size, let's talk about the best way to use it. How do you source your crates? How many crates do you source at a time? What about special item drops? How rare are those? I'll answer all of these questions, starting with how to source your crates. So the way I like to do this is I start in an invite-only lobby with my CEO office as the spawn point. This way, I don't have to deal with griefers blowing up my cargo as I'm flying back to the warehouse, and I also start in a pretty central position, which makes the trips back and forth a whole lot quicker whenever the game gives me a randomized crate mission. Sometimes you'll get a location that's close to your warehouse, sometimes you won't. It's just better to start in the middle of the map, and that's why the Arcadius Business Center is so good, because it's right in the middle of the city. Alternatively, Alternatively, if you don't want to switch lobbies after every source, bring out your terabyte and park it sort of midway between your various warehouses. And no, you don't need the master control terminal to start crate theft missions. You can do those from the regular terabyte command center. Then let's talk about the actual missions themselves. The game gives you one of exactly two types. In type A, you go around sourcing 3 individual crates from 3 separate locations that are usually next to each other. Type B, all 3 crates are packed inside a vehicle and you have to drive this vehicle back to the warehouse. Obviously, I'm gonna prefer type B as it's a lot less time consuming. Unfortunately, we can't just hook up a vehicle to our Iron Mule or Cargo Bob, but the mission is still a whole lot faster than making 3 separate trips on your Oppressor or Sparrow or even Buzzard. And the game will randomly give you one of either mission. So sometimes you'll get a solo vehicle, sometimes you'll have to make 3 trips back and forth between the warehouse and the drop locations. And here's how to know which mission type you've got right after your assistant calls you. End the call, bring up your map. If you see the warehouse blip on the map, it means you're about to get 3 loose crates once you arrive at the GPS coordinates. If you don't see a warehouse blip, it means you're about to get a single vehicle, which is the best type of mission to be grinding. I know some people will straight up eat the $18,000 loss and just jump into a new session when they see that warehouse icon pop up because they'd rather lose that money than do 3 individual trips to collect their crates, but I don't think we have to go that extreme. It's not that big of a deal in my opinion, as I rarely grind crates anyway, but if you're serious about grinding these to the best of your ability, that's a method worth considering for time. You'll lose some money, sure, but the long-term gains in terms of time saved might outweigh the cost for you. And if you're really serious here, I've got a little glitch that's been around for a few years now, and this glitch lets you do the 3 crate source in about half the time. This only works when you get 3 loose crates and is useless for the single vehicle source missions. But that's exactly where we need to time save, because making 3 flights to and from the warehouse will eat into your sanity pretty fast and burn you out. So here's how you do this glitch. First, before you even start a crate source mission, bring up either Simeon or Lester on your cell phone and request the job. Then go for the 3 crate source, as I've only tested this glitch with the 3 crate source and I'm not sure if it works with the others. Besides, there's no point sourcing 1 or 2 crates at a time unless you're doing it specifically for RP, so always get 3 crates. Then with Simeon's job offer on your phone, pull out your Oppressor or Sparrow or whatever and fly to the location. Then walk into the middle of a crate, pick it up, then walk to the second crate, and while standing in the middle of that one, open your phone and accept the job. Then immediately back out of the job. You'll know you've successfully initiated the glitch when the 2 boxes appear like this in parallel right next to each other. Then place a manual waypoint on your location, pick up the 3rd box, and fly back to your warehouse with your phone open. Right as you enter the yellow circle, accept the job and back out once again. Then you know the second stage of the glitch has been activated when you can't see the 2 remaining crates on your map. You also won't be able to use your personal vehicle that you just flew in with, but that's no issue. Simply call a different one or respawn it. Then fly back to the manual waypoint you set earlier and accelerate your Oppressor right through the 2 crates, picking up both at the same time. The game will then warp you back into your warehouse, and for the final crate, just walk outside and pick it up to complete the source mission. This takes about half the time it normally would to source 3 separate crates, and it will significantly cut down time on your grind, so try it out and let me know if this glitch is still working. And for a final tip here, if you don't want the 2 worst crate source missions in the game, which were added with the Criminal Enterprises update, start your source missions from the terabyte. With the terabyte, you'll only get the OG source missions and you'll skip out on those god-awful underwater source missions as well as the auto shop mission, both of which can take 20 minutes or more. It's absolutely ridiculous. Also, don't forget to layer your cooldowns. So for example, if you source one warehouse, it will go on a 5-minute cooldown, but that only applies to the warehouse that you just used. So all of the other warehouses are still available and you can do a new source mission while the first warehouse comes off cooldown. Now, let me talk to you about a technique that I use myself to source crates without doing any actual work myself. First, I spawn on my CEO office and do a quick export makes goods mission for $50,000. Takes about 3 minutes, and that cash I get is very important, because what I do with it is I fly to all 5 of my warehouses and I assign all 5 technicians inside of there to bring me crates. Of course, it's much faster if the warehouses are all right next to each other, and this is where it helps to have chosen good locations like we talked about earlier on in the video. It costs $7,500 per technician, so $37,500 in total, and they reset every 48 minutes, so you can send them out again at the end of that time. Technicians most of the time will bring you 1 or 2 crates, but occasionally they might bring in a 3rd crate as well, and there's the even rarer chance that they'll return with a special item. This has a 1 in 100 or about 1% chance of happening. Anyways, I spend about 5 minutes assigning my techs, and then I go do whatever other content I want. Contact missions, adversary modes, heists, other businesses, etc., whatever you want to do. Then at the end of my gameplay session, I pop back in, do another export mixed goods, and assign all 5 technicians to crate hunting before I log off. You see, these guys even work while you're offline, so the next time you get into the game, you'll be notified on who acquired what as soon as you log in, and then you can repeat the cycle. This way, you're essentially filling up all warehouses for quote-unquote free because you get the money from the exporting mixed goods jobs with a slight profit, and you can still sell a full warehouse for over $2.2 million in profit. The only downside is, depending on how much you actually play the game and use the technicians, it can take you 1 or 2 months to fill up all 5 of your large warehouses this way, but it's really good for making money with the crate business when you otherwise wouldn't do any manual crate sourcing and grinding yourself. That's what I do nowadays. Now, let's talk about selling here. Obviously, you should only sell when your warehouse is 100% full, as that will give you the maximum profit per crate. But what about public versus private? I usually do my sells in private lobbies if I have multiple full warehouses, but if you have a crew or if you're in a Discord group, you can do public sell missions, as that will give you up to a 50% boost on your crate value, taking your total sale value per large warehouse from $2.2 million all the way up to $3.3 million. And during 2 times bonus weeks, each warehouse is worth $6.6 million in a packed lobby. Sell all 5, and that's $33 million in 1 single day. Quite frankly here, there's no other activity in GTA 5 Online that delivers quite the same level of dopamine hits you get from watching your GTA bank balance go up by over $30 million in just 1 hour. And Rockstar usually does 2 times bonuses for CEO cargo once, maybe twice a year if we're lucky at this point, so you can make $60 million in 2 days if you sell public with that high demand bonus. Also, the only vehicle upgrade you need if you sell private is the tugboat speed upgrade. Forget about armor unless you're selling in public lobbies, and for the air cell where you randomly get enemy Valkyrie NPCs, if you're solo, fly to each checkpoint and clear the area with your Sparrow or Raiju before you fly in with a Titan. Otherwise, you're gonna lose all your cargo. Finally, let's talk about special items. The game actually has a very specific checklist that it follows to see if you're eligible for special items. First, as soon as you spawn into a session, it will assign you a contraband type, which is randomized. Special items like ornamental eggs, rare hides, and golden miniguns only spawn across 6 specific contraband categories, so if you don't have one of those assigned, you won't be eligible in that session. Then the game also checks to see that you've done at least 20 source missions, and if you pass that check, it will also scan for duplicate special items. If you pass all 3 checks, there's a 10% chance of spawning a special item, and you'll know you have one when you get a call from your assistant. If you don't roll a special, just hop into a new invite-only lobby and try again. But once you do get a special item, make sure you've done at least 20 source missions before you try to spawn another one. And with that said, that's my full 2025 updated money-making guide for CEO Special Cargo, one of the more underappreciated businesses in the game now that we have all these fancy heists that pay more money in a shorter amount of time. But patience is a virtue when you're grinding crates, and the payoff at the end is truly massive if you stick around for it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please consider dropping a like on this video if you found the information informative, and of course subscribing to the channel if you're new and you want to see more GTA 5 Online content just like this. Feel free to check me out over on Twitch, Twitter, and Instagram, specifically twitch.tv/hazardoushdtv. That is where you'll find all my GTA 5 Online money grinding live streams. It's the GTA 6 waiting room over there. Anyways, I'll catch you guys in the next video. Until then, adios amigos.